G'day everyone, welcome back to Steve's Place Down Under. Today we're going to review this SIMDER 10-in-1 welding machine. This is the exact machine that you will be getting if you've entered that competition by entering a code word in the last 2 to 4 episodes, depends on how many we put out before this. There's a code word in each episode. If you've entered that correctly, it's going to go into some randomizer thing that my wife does over there, and we're going to draw the name out and then we'll announce how to get hold of us to get this machine. I'm going to use it to make a stand-up. You can see the Holden Red I've just brought in. Never had it running. Thought I'd make an engine run stand for it. The company, there was no contract, there was no, they were really good about it. They just basically said, can you review this machine for us? And I said, well, if it's on my terms, which I've told you about with the second machine for the giveaway, and I want to actually do a job, it's a job I was going to do anyway with one of my own machines, so I thought I'd use this to do it. It's a TIG MIG stick plasma cutter, and 10-in-1 must mean pulse and all that sort of thing. I know nothing about TIG welding. I have done it, but I could write as much as I know on this thing here. I just don't. So I'm not going to use that. I'm not going to pretend I know how to review that because it'll be false. But I can use the stick, I can use the MIG side of it, and I will use the plasma side of it now. I use flux core here. Unless I'm doing a big job, I'll go and get a bottle of gas, but mainly flux core because it's just another expense, and it's really good. A lot of the stuff I've been welding over the house there when I built the extension was gal, and the flux core really liked it. Excuse me. I've got a 200 amp machine in there that it's just great with 0.9 wire. So if I set this up similar, it should do exactly the same job. It's a 240 volt machine. So I'll do an unboxing, and then we'll cut some. I haven't got any new steel. I'll just get whatever is in the rack there. We'll just design something so I can run that. I'll cut it open. No sooner as I agreed to do this, the bloke from the company had a tracking number for the parcel, so he was right onto it, and hopefully he's still right onto the second one. If not, I'll have to clean this one up as good as I can after doing a job and move this one onto you. So we'll do an unboxing, get a bit of this stuff out. I'm not hurting the packaging in case he doesn't come through with the second one, but he was that nice to start with. I'd imagine so. I'll take all the flash foamy bits off it. It's all digital too, I believe, which is new to me. All the machines I use are fairly old and it's got the analog dials on them, but hopefully it's fairly straightforward. Now there's the machine itself, 240 volt, 15 amp plug, which I won't show you what I'm going to do to that. But I guess we'll have to plug it in, but it's no different than any other welding machine except it's got a cutter on it and a TIG, so I guess it's just all in one. We'll have to fire it up and see how it all works. I'm going to put a second-hand roll of 0.9 flux core I've got in it. Hopefully the rollers accommodate 0.9. Yes, they do. Some tips there which look like they suit my other machine, so I've got plenty of them. There'll be a liner for aluminium, I'd imagine, one for steel. Looks like some air hose there, whether it's for gas or the air for the plasma. An earth clamp. Sort of gun there, I think that's your TIG gun. Plasma cutter handle, stick handle, and a MIG handle. That's good. A cheeky little wire brush there. There's another little carton here. Oh, it's an air regulator by the look of it. I'd say it's for air. Funny looking one for gas if it is. But yeah, that's just air pressure. The actual other one I've got's built in, but this may not be. Anyway, we'll set it up to what we're going to use it for and start building this machine. I'm not going to tell you everything about it because I don't know. I'm just using it as any farmer would, any small tradesman would. I do a lot of welding at work, but not a professional welder. I'm more of a plant mechanic but welding's just part of the job. We don't really use machines this small, so we'll just see how we go with it. Okay, I'm just going to film a short bit of setup here. So gives you this, comes with like a part of a bulkhead, so screw the nut on. I've set it up with a workshop Nitto fitting in it, so we can just plug the air from the compressor straight into it, and this is just a hose tail that comes with clamps and hose to make that work. 8mm spanner, give those a nip. Now I can't turn this around because can't put the gauge in this side. That's not a plug, which you think it would be, so you can swap it around. But anyway, it just means the hose is going to be in front of those fans, which really isn't a problem. Always lubricate these stainless hose clamps, because as soon as they grab, they've completely had it. So this is going in the same port as your TIG gas, it says. Again, I won't be using MIG gas, I'm just going to use flux core. Even though I do have wire here for the gas, the bottle's empty, and I'm not going to go and spend, I think it's only 190 or something, because you buy the bottles here, you don't rent them. But I barely use it, so I'm not. It's an expense I don't really have to pay, and it's still a function that this thing's capable of doing to show you. So, okay, I'd imagine the book is going to give you a guide at what pressure you should run this at, to what amps you're working. So, this is for your plasma cutter. Oh. It's quite a heavy machine, so it's got to be some quality to it. All the parts I've looked at so far seem fine. What we're going to do now is I have to go and get my other welder, but put the wire in it and find out what sort of roller it is running to start with. I'm sure it's 0.9 I use. That's 1 and 8. So what I usually do with the other one, I run a 0.9 roller, 0.9 wire, and a 1mm tip. Just gives you that bit of, well, it never plays up, that bit of tolerance. It still works fine. I don't know if that's rule, but that's what I do. So the number you're reading on the outside is not the number that you've got to read it and then turn it in so it lines up with the guides. That's just a flat roll that pushes it into that groove. Okay, so what I'll do now, I'll just go and get my wire. I'll turn these off and come back. Okay, I told you it's a small fib. I said I was using 0.9. The one I just pulled out of that machine in there is 0.8, so which is fine. I just rolled that roller around so it's now on 0.8. You just secure it. This is left-hand thread. And I always leave a bit hanging out there because once it's past the guide in your gun, it's smooth sailing right to the tip, so it doesn't bind up in here. Some welders have got an inching button in here to feed it, but it doesn't look like this one has, but you can pull the trigger, that's fine. Okay, just went and found a lead, plugged the machine in with 240 volt here in Australia. So I'm going to figure out how to power it up, and then we'll feed the wire through this MIG gun. It's got a 1mm tip in it, which is good. Master switch on the back, fans are all going. Okay, I've just moved the camera to see if we can focus in on this screen here now. It's giving me a heap of gas as well as all these different options here. Plasma, HF, TIG, pulse MIG, mixed gas, AR 100%, CO2 100%, separate, MMA, flux. Okay, so I guess I'm going flux. I'll set it up for that. So your polarities are reversed on your earth as well with flux wire. So first up, what I'm going to do is MIG with it anyway. So I'll set it up for that and just see a bit of scrap steel and see how it goes. I'll have to, I don't know what you do to enter that, whether there's an OK or anyway, we'll set the gun up and okay, so we feed that wire into there. Screw it down tight so it all contacts and all the O-rings, seat and everything else. Okay, I'm just going to explain my plan here before we start welding and testing out this machine. So this has got to hold an engine, right, so we can rev it and do all sorts of stuff what we're going to do on it. So my plan at this stage is to use these bits and pieces left over from the shed when we build it. Excuse me. Basically I'm going to have 3 exaggerated, they'll be sitting inside. Basically 3 like that. So we'll make the actual square frame first. The back one will have a riser coming off it with like a wire piece with a rubber stop. It'll sit under the webbing of the block. The front one we will space. The very front one we'll tie the front of it all together. There'll be radiator mounts coming off that one. And this one here will have a couple of risers coming up off it with just some probably square or RHS with a hole through it. Then we'll just put a bolt through it into the actual engine mount. So it'll all be rubber mounted, but we won't bolt the back because the other 2 I've got to try have got transmissions on them and we don't want to pick up any bell housing holes. This one hasn't got one, but they have, so we'll just have it so they just sit straight on. It's only for 6 cylinders. You could use a V8 if you modified this a bit, I suppose. But it's just to run these 3 6-cylinders I've got. Plus I've got a black one over there which I want to run as well. So we'll just make this basic frame first, test the welder out, then we'll put the caster wheels under it. Then we'll have to move to the ground. We'll hover it off the block and tackle and then find out our spacings. Okay, so I've just gone ahead, I'm just trying to feed the wires through and notice that the drag on this was loose. Now, probably my fault for not tightening it up, but you just want to set that so the rollers aren't arguing with it, but it doesn't overrun either. So you can see it is feeding there, but that's how far it overran. So you don't want it to be too much weight on the rollers, but you just don't want it to uncoil either. Okay, I'm going to give it a run now. I just sort of copied the specs off my other machine now. Set at about 15 volts, 105 inches per minute now. I don't know if all that's right, but that's how the other one was set and it's working now. To get that down to a fine art, I might be way out, but I think in my eyes, as long as it's working, it's not burning holes through it, it's penetrating properly. Could be out a little bit, but we'll see how it goes. I just zapped it there on the side, but just to see if it all arcs before we actually get into it. But it did, but I didn't really weld with it, so this old flimsy table's not helping the cause either. I might just knock that bit of a lip off there. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put a tack over here just so I can hinge it off that and square it up. It doesn't have to be perfect, it's more to see how the welder works, and it's going to hold that engine regardless. Still got your helmet, thanks Mark, too. I haven't got my gimbal, it's on the tripod, just excuse the edit that part out. Okay, so I've just tacked that. You wouldn't want to go any hotter because you're welding, this is only thin steel, you're welding on the end of it. If you're sort of welding something down, you know, a bit of angle on the top of here or something, you could probably go a bit hotter, but I think that's fine. It's going to be fully welded. So I'll put another one here, then we'll square it all up, and I think we'll just keep going at that setting. Probably could be finely adjusted until we work it out, but at the moment I'm fairly happy with that. Pretty close too. This flux core absolutely loves gal too, so it's a good ad for it really. So I'm just going to tack it all together, then we can roll around, and then we'll just do horizontal stuff so it's not burning, it's not blowing through it. And yes, we will eventually be starting the old motor up, but not on this episode. This is more about the welder. Pretty smooth. With a, you can leave this tip off when you flux core too, because that's only a gas shroud for when you're actually MIG welding with gas. So that's tacked. I'll turn it around, do the other end. Okay, I'm very happy with how smooth that is. Those settings are, you know, they probably could be tweaked a little bit, but I think it's fine how we're going to do it here. So what I'm going to do is I'll fully weld that now, and then excuse me, then we'll measure the engine up to find out where that centre one's got to be, and then we'll go from there. So I'll just roll it around, do all the welding. I'll probably speed this up somehow. I think that's a pretty good weld for, you know, there's no grinding back the gal, it's flux core. I think it's perfect. That'll never ever break. And the settings, as I said, they could be a little bit out, but I'm more than happy with that for what this is going to do. It's very smooth, it's not sticking, it's not grabbing, it's doing everything it should at the moment. Let me know in the comments below whether you, I think it's arguable whether you drag a flux core MIG or you push. I know gas type wire you push, but I've always heard that flux that you drag, but I don't know, I can't seem to see the difference, especially in this lighter stuff, but tell me your thoughts. I'm certainly not a professional. So this old steel's a little bit warped, as it's only meant for laying screw and sheet and roof iron too. So it filled that gap there, no problem. So it's certainly not too hot. I won't put a weld there, but I will on the inside. I'll stand it up. Could be a little bit cold, but you know, it's still more than neat enough. That one there I went over the tack, which I probably should have ground out. I'm happy with it so far. the ideal machine if you, excuse me, I've got a bit of a flu. If you tinker in your garage, you're making small bits and pieces, you can cut with it, you can, all sorts of welding with it, so it's probably, again, if you want to buy it before we do draw it, the link is in the description below, 30% off, which is a good price to start with, I think, for what you're getting. Okay, a little bit of burn back. It could be the gal, could be the machine, could be a setting, I'm not sure. Not a problem though, but if you wanted a more detailed, needed job, you'd probably look for the problem, but at the moment I'm happy with it. I'll tell you right now, it's not going to fall to bits though. I'm not going to weld the back of it, couldn't care less there. You're going to weld to that thin edge and it's just going to make a mess. So what we'll do now, we'll get the engine hanging off the hoist. So we could probably do it where it is actually. Just run a measurement over it. Okay, so on the engine I've measured 410 from where I'm going to mount the back to the centre of the front mount. So I suppose, I mean, this is all square, I can weld that in and we'll have to sit the engine in and measure or where it's going to sit and measure these risers in the back, what I'm going to do at the back here. And I was going to do a wide piece, but if it's sitting low enough, I'd just be able to do two coming up off it. And I did just go through my bits and pieces, draw, and found these are off an air compressor when you're mounted in a shed, but when they're mounted on a vehicle, you take them off and throw them out. They're just cheap bonded rubber to a metric thread. I think I'll just make a pipe weld the nut into it, and that can just sit up under the webbing of the block, and the front will just have a bolt through it. I'm really enjoying how smooth this machine is, to be honest. I mean, the other ones, there's nothing wrong with the other one either, but it's probably spent a lot more on it to what this one's valued at or worth, so you do expect more, but at the moment I can't see any difference. Okay, I've got 4 caster wheels here my father-in-law had in a box down the back. They're just all running straight, so which won't matter. You can just drag the front over as long as it's sort of just something to hold it up off the ground. So I'll just weld 4 of those on, then we'll roll it over and do a dummy fit of the engine and get some measurements. I've got 4 wheels welded on it. It's welding really well. It's, you know, that steel's a little bit thicker, but it's still plenty hot enough for what it's doing. So I'll turn it over now. Hope to get a bit thicker stuff so I can show you the stick welder, and I even want to have a go myself. So we'll roll it over, get some measurements with the engine sitting where I want it, and we'll cut some steel and hopefully be able to use some rods as well. Okay, I've got the engine mounts welded on. No, they're just tacked with the MIG, so I'm going to just try a stick welder now. Just got some satin craft here, which are just DIY stuff at home. They're not strong by any means, but it'll certainly do this. But I'll just set it up for stick. I'll work out how to do that, and we'll weld those on properly with that and see how it goes. Okay, so I'm going to set the screen up here. I'll just get to see that. So up in the top corner here, you probably can't see, that's on flux. So we go back to home and then we find MMA. Which is that one. That's set at 140 amps, which I don't know what none of this over here means. I'm just going to strike the damn thing and see what happens. And then go from there. Okay, I've got a satin craft rod here, set at 85 amps roughly. Well, that's what the screen says. I'm just going to weld this bit of scrap together here. Didn't like the gal at all. I'll finish it off with the MIG, but I just want to show you while it's set up what it can do, and I want to see what it does myself. Very windy too, as you can hear. I didn't clean that up the best. You can see that bit of a miss in the middle there, but I don't think it's too bad. You know, I don't know the condition of these old rods. I've had them for years. They could be wet. They could be. I could have a setting wrong, but I think that's fine. That's old steel. You could easily fix that if you were doing a project. I think it's very smooth. I think they're satin craft. It looks like it says it up one end, but they're a bit broken away. But I haven't got a box of new rods here because I don't use them. But I think that's fine. I won't do too much more with it because I don't need it on this project, but that's just another function the thing can do. And if you can weld any better than me, you'll definitely get it better than that. I could get it better than that too with better steel, but I think that's fine. I'm going to try just mild steel now, no gal or anything. Machine is still set on 68 amps. Still with the flux core wire. I just want to see what it does. Well, I know what it does, just to show you all what it does on the mild steel without the gal that we've welded the rest of the video. Just put a tack on there to lift it out, get out of the way. They're a bit messy, these flux core, but it's not a bad weld. Possibly still a bit cold. I've been playing with the settings off camera, just trying to adjust it properly. But again, it's a lot different with the old analog machine I've got. So I think you'd get very used to it. I've only been playing with it for a couple of hours now, and I'm slowly starting to learn it. But I think that's a pretty good weld for what it's set at, what the wire is. Remember, it's 0.8, so it's not massive. If you had more time with it, you could definitely adjust that down to where it was near perfect, but I think that's pretty good. I won't show any more because, well, you get the idea of it. I mean, I might just turn it up a little bit and finish that off and see how it does go. But I mentioned before in the video, when you turn the wire speed up, it automatically adjusts the amps to it, and the other dial is the volts. So there's obviously a ratio there between volts and amps. Excuse me. It's burning a lot better. I mean, I've turned it up to 77 amps. I think that's fine. I mean, this the bit of angle is a lot thicker than the bit of plate I'm welding to, but I think that's fine. If you're DIY home in your garage or a tradie doing small jobs, I think it's perfect. So I might just try the stick on the other side. It's a bit different angle. I might just burn another rod into there and see how it goes. And I'm going to use another Satin Craft 13 rod here. These are just general application rods, just the small workshops and stuff. Again, it's probably in this machine's range pretty well. I had it set on, I think, 84 amps last time. I've gone up to 96 because it's still in the range of these rods. They can go right up to 135 amps for a 3.2. So I'll lay another one down there and see how she performs with it wound up with different steel. Smell reminds me of when I used to build go-karts as a kid. Before the days where I got a MIG. Yeah, look at that, That's just beautiful. When the slag falls off like that, it's probably, I don't know, maybe 5 amps too high, 7 amps, I don't know. Definitely a bit hot, but it's a beautiful weld. That's not going to let go. So yeah, it's just a SIG weld, Satin Craft 13, just a normal basic general purpose rod. Not a high strength thing, but easy to use. That's the MIG that side, that's the stick, so it went on fairly smoothly, and the machine well exceeded the rod, because you could have gone bigger size again. That was way too hot, and it keeps going, so I'm fairly happy with that. Okay, so to me, the way I burnt that rod for a small unit like this, I haven't got a stick welder now. I do, but the thing's the size of this drum, and it's only sort of capable of, I don't know, maybe 150 amps, if that. So to me, I don't need a MIG machine, I don't need a plasma cutter, because I've already got both, and this is more than capable of doing it. But to me, this would be worth just keeping it set up as a stick just for those rods, because it's super smooth once you get it started. And then I've got all bases covered without dragging out something as big as this, again, as big as this drum. It's got the old crank handle on top. It's an old Transarc machine, so, and it works beautiful, but just a big machine. This is easy to store, so while I'm out there cleaning the pallet racking up, I might put that machine away and just keep this set up as a stick. And if the other machines ever fail, it's capable of doing the rest of it as well. But I'm very happy with it just for that. Okay, so we're going to try plasma cutting now. I'm going to cut like a little control panel out, mount some switches and stuff in. Plus I might just cut some scrap as well to show you how it goes. But I've got it set up. The book's very straightforward. Tells you where every wire's got to go. It's pretty self-explanatory anyway, but tells you where everything's got to plug in. Hopefully I've got it right. It's more the digital settings I'm having trouble with, but the old analog machines are easy to me. But anyway, it's how everything's going. So I've got the air plugged into the back. I couldn't find a chart to pressure to amp sort of thing that my other plasma's got in there, but we'll just fiddle with it and see how we go. Okay, it's set pretty good to start with. That little glitch there was my fault. I'm trying to drag it on this rusty bit of steel. I probably should have cleaned it up first, but when you're trying to drag it smoothly on that, it's sort of getting caught, and that's where it... But the cut itself's nice. The air pressure's pretty good. I've sort of got it halfway on the gauge. I'll take you around and show you that in a minute. It's about, I don't know, 34 amps. I guess that's how you read, yeah, amps, 34 amps there. I think it only goes up to 50, but we'll see in a minute. I might cut another bit of scrap, something a bit thicker, and show you how that works. Okay, got some 4mm steel here. Just going to see how it runs on it with the same settings. And then I've got some 8mm and 5/16. I can't really find anything thicker at the moment. Still a bit of freehand here. There you go, done that with ease on those settings, absolutely easy. It's more my shaky hand that makes it look rough. So this is 8mm with the same settings. Okay, it's cutting just as good. Probably a little bit of slag. I think it's the way I cut it too. It's like a puzzle, it's not falling out, but it's cut right through. I can see right through it. 8mm. I'll now show you the settings. Okay, got it on the gimbal now. I'll show you the air pressure settings. I think it's near perfect. And that's without playing with it behind the scenes. That's just setting it straight up, 34 amps. I guess the thicker the steel, the more pressure and amps you would give it, but as I said, I couldn't find a chart anywhere. But it's, you know, if you're going to get one of these machines, I'm sure you could play with it easily enough and adjust to where it's working well for you. Frame I'm very happy with. A couple of the bodgy welds are my fault, just playing with settings and welding probably where the gal should have been ground off and everything, but where I had it set and where it was prepped properly, it welded beautiful. It's very smooth, very, you know, very easy to use. The equipment on it feels, the guns, the earth clamps, they all feel quality. The machine has got a bit of weight about it. I can't fault it. I can't find anything cheap about it, apart from the price. Okay, everyone, I'm going to wrap that video up. I'm very impressed with this machine. I'm not a professional welder by any means, so I don't TIG weld, I don't aluminium weld, well sometimes, but I haven't got all the equipment to do that, nor am I going to outlay money to buy a roll of wire that I'm never going to use just to see how it works. It's got 10-in-1, which is all pulse settings and all other settings, so it's, for those of you who do weld all the time and know what that means, it's probably an ideal machine. You haven't got multiple units. It'd be good for a DIY in your garage at home, or a tradie that doesn't want to fill their vehicle with multiple units. It's ideal. 240 volt. Company's been great. Emails me back straight away that the unit turned up in no time at all. I'm very happy with it. I've done a lot of work behind the scenes with it, just trying to adjust it and obviously film being edited, like a lot of it's edited out to a reasonable watching length video, so I've used it more than I could have filmed, obviously, but I'm going to finish that engine off, mount the radiator and everything. That's just tinkering, and so I'll use it for that. I can't be happier with it. I would pay the money, especially with the code I've got down below, which is 30% off an already cheap unit. So I think it's exceptional value. I'm very impressed with it. I'm still getting used to the digital settings because all my old machines are all analog, and I sort of know where they've got to be and know how they perform. And some of this stuff written on here doesn't mean anything to me because I don't weld all the time. So I'm extremely happy with it. I'm going to keep using it now rather than the other machine. And while it's set up, and hopefully you enjoyed the video. Thanks to the company again for sending it out, and good luck to those people that entered the code word. Hopefully you win this unit. If not, click down below and get the code to get a cheap one to start with. So thanks everyone for watching.